Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Key Time Sports. It's Key Time coming back to talk about the NFL draft for tonight. The first round of the NFL draft starts tonight, and I have quite a few draft projections that I want to cover before the draft starts tonight. Now, we all know that the top five teams in the draft, these are the positions that they are going. Titans, they seem like they want to draft Cam Ward. I heard last night that Cam Ward will be first to go. But one thing that I do see is the Tennessee Titans, they already have Will Levis. So what are the Tennessee Titans going to do about Will Levis? Personally, what I think that they will do, I believe that they will trade Will Levis, get some future draft picks in the upcoming future drafts because Will Levis in the past, I'm going to say year, he hasn't shown anything like he is a quarterback franchise cornerstone player that the Titans need. So Cam Ward, he had an okay career in college. He really came on the scene last year when he was in Miami, but when he took himself out of the second half of the bowl game, that didn't look too good for Cam Ward. So hopefully he'll be able to go first overall, first overall pick in the first round of the draft tonight, or I wonder will the Titans go a different route because we've seen this all throughout draft history. A team that is so set in stone. They want to draft this guy, and then at the 11th hour, they go and draft somebody else. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But anything when it comes to the draft, anything can happen. Okay, anything can happen. So next is projection is the Browns drafting Travis Hunter. Now, do I think anywhere Travis Hunter goes, he will be a he will be a asset to that team. He will be a great player for any team, and he will improve the team at any position they put him at when he gets drafted. But the Browns, I don't necessarily see Travis Hunter going to the Browns. Now I might be wrong. I haven't heard anybody from the Browns camp saying that they are going to draft Travis Hunter 100%. I haven't heard any of that. So this is just going off of projections and speculations. So Travis Hunter, we know what he did at Colorado, but nobody knows what he did when he was at Jackson State when he wasn't getting any kind of recognition. And let me tell you, he was dominating at Jackson State just like he was when he played for the Colorado Buffaloes over the past 2 years. The Giants, third team, the Giants, edge rusher Abdul Carter. I seen Abdul Carter last year in the Orange Bowl and the Capital One Orange Bowl playing against Michigan. No, excuse me, Notre Dame. Penn State was playing Notre Dame, so I saw Abdul Carter. He's a great edge rusher. He is a sack specialist. So if the Giants do get him, they'll be getting a rush specialist and a sack specialist all in one. The Patriots, Will Campbell, offensive tackle, LSU. I saw him last year. He gave up he gave up 10, maybe 12 sacks when he was at LSU. So that's not too much of that's not gonna hurt his draft stock too much, but offensive tackle, you want him to be able to get out and know you want him to be able to open up some run lanes for your running back. So Will Campbell, most of the time he was able to do that, did get injured last year. So basically, this season, if he does get drafted to the Patriots, he will be in a team where they are developing, because the Patriots, they just hired Mike Vrabel just 2 months ago. So just 2 months ago, the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel. So Will Campbell, that would be he would be in the best situation going to the Patriots. Now, the number 15 for the draft tonight is the Jaguars, Mason Graham, defensive tackle. Now, the list of needs that the Jaguars need, they need offensive line help, they need defensive line help. Now, when it comes to Mason Graham, I watched him at Michigan, and he is a great player. Now, I could see him, averaging, you know, 10, 10, maybe 12 tackles in it throughout in a season throughout his career. But coming into his regular season, coming into his rookie season, wherever he may go to the Jaguars, and then he may go somewhere else. Wherever he may go, I could see him averaging, just in his rookie season, I could see him getting, about 150, 155 tackles, averaging, you know, 6 to 7 tackles a game, because that's what he did at Michigan. He averaged 6 to 7 tackles a game. So the Raiders, they need offensive help. That is one of the necessities that the Las Vegas Raiders need. So Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle for Texas, doesn't give up too many sacks. Didn't give up too many sacks last season when he was playing for the Texas Longhorns. I think that this is a great pick, and the Raiders, they do not need to move up or move down. They just need to build from within, get some offensive tackle help, get some defensive help, and make sure they need to draft corners. The Raiders, they need to draft corners, because the last 3 years, their corners have been their corner help has been in the bottom of the league. Their secondary, bottom of the league. When you have a team like the Raiders, and you have Tom Brady, who is working behind the scenes, you know that your team is going to improve substantially. So, Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Raiders at 6, I have no problem with that. I think that the Raiders should not move, shouldn't do anything. Just let Calvin Banks come to them. Now, for the Jets, Tyler Warren. I also saw him, Penn State. He was dominating last year in the Capital One Orange Bowl. And plus, not just that, but Tyler Warren, he had a great season for Penn State last year. He had over 1,000 yards of receiving as a tight end at Penn State. So he's got some great numbers. And the New York Jets at quarterback, Justin Fields is at quarterback for the New York Jets. So this would be a great security blanket for Justin Fields. I hope the Jets, they don't move from 7 and try and go up, because you already have your quarterback in Justin Fields. Now, you have to get your tight end, which you have your tight end in your hand. Also, one other thing, the Jets, as far as defensively, you have an okay defense, but everything that the New York Jets stood for when Robert Saleh was there, Aaron Glenn is just changing all of that up. He is setting out his own blueprint for the New York Jets. So, can the New York Jets succeed this season? Maybe, maybe not. But when we all look at this, the Jets, they haven't been to the playoffs since 2010. I mean, 2010 was just 2010 was so long ago, and I am not going to bore y'all with all of the cliches and everything. What was the world like back in 2010? I'm not gonna bore y'all with that. The next, the next team, number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Jalen Walker, linebacker, Georgia. I saw this guy up close and personal. He played against my Florida Gators, and I also saw him in the national championship game a couple of years ago. He has been dominant ever since he came to the Georgia Bulldogs and the Panthers. They do need improvements on defense because last year now, well, it was just just scratch that year. Scratch last year because it was a development year for Bryce Young. He didn't have any offensive line help. That's another thing that the Panthers need to work on is getting Bryce Young some offensive line help. The defense start at the start of the season, the defense was 32nd. After their bye week, the Panthers, when it comes to the Panthers, after week 12, they were in the top half of the NFL. So now, when we look at the Panthers they might be able to, you know, yeah, they might be able to go to the go to the playoffs this year. But like I said, when it comes to the Panthers, young coaching staff, young wide receivers, young tight ends, young quarterback. Everybody on the Panthers is young. Their average age for the Panthers is 27. So that group is going to be around for years. Now, I like this pick for the Carolina Panthers. To shore up and improve your defense, you need to go and get a guy like Jalen Walker from Georgia because he is another sack specialist. He can also get you some interceptions from time to time. He is also lined up in a nickel defense and a dime defense package. So you can put him, the defensive coordinator for the Panthers, if the Panthers get him, he could put him anywhere he want to on the field. You can line him up in quarter, nickel, dime, or dollar blitz. And I'm pretty sure everybody is wondering the play. What is the play called? Dollar blitz. Go and look up the play that is play call in the NFL called dollar blitz, and come back to me. The next team that is on the list is number 10. Excuse me, number 9, the New Orleans Saints, offensive tackle. Now, the New Orleans Saints, we don't expect anything from them this year, and we shouldn't expect anything from the New Orleans Saints for the next 3 years because we know that Kellen Moore he's really not a head coach per se. Like I've been saying, some offensive coordinators are not they don't belong as head coaches, and some head coaches don't belong as offensive coordinators. Now, Kellen Moore, this is his very first head coaching job. So let's see if the Saints can give Kellen Moore, 3 to 4 years to maybe build the team up because the Saints, they don't have no draft capital. They don't have no salary cap money for anybody that they can bring in. So they have to build from within and they have to build from the draft. And let me tell you, in a time, this is 2025, free agency, it helps out every sports team. It does. And for the Saints not being able to dip their toe into the free agency market, it's bad. And management, you have a tough time on your hands. So, offensive tackle Armand Mibu from Missouri. Missouri, one thing I can say about Missouri, the last couple of years they have been up and down. So it's like, they had that one off year in 2023 where they were 10-2 and they could have possibly went to the college football playoff, and then last year they pretty much laid an egg. So it's like you don't really know how to take the Missouri Tigers. You really don't. But as far as this guy's draft stock, he is great. Now the next guy, the next team, the Chicago Bears, drafted potentially drafting Ashton Jeanty. Anybody that drafts Ashton Jeanty, their running game is going to improve just by him being there. Just by him being there. Because let me tell you, last season, it goes without saying, Ashton Jeanty cracked over 2,000 yards at Boise State. He even went to that Boise State even went to the college football. Well, they were in the college football playoff, and Ashton Jeanty he had 100 yards playing against the team that I mentioned a few minutes ago, Penn State. So Ashton Jeanty, he is a well-round running back. He is the modern day. I hate to say it, but he is the modern day Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith. He is. Now, I'm not comparing him to Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders, but Ashton Jeanty's play, his running back play, is like Barry Sanders or Emmitt Smith. He is so swift on the ground, and plus the elusivity he plays with, it is also going to work wonders with whatever team that drafts him. So, the next team, the San Francisco 49ers at 11. At 11. Shemar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M. Texas A&M last year, they had a good season. Mike Elko, his first season. Shemar Stewart, I saw him in quite a few games last year because I covered Texas A&M a lot of times in college football last season on Saturday. So Shemar Stewart, he's a great edge rusher. There was one game where Shemar Stewart had 2.5 sacks against I forgot who they were playing, but he had a great game. He had 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles. So this guy is pretty much a great edge rusher. And for a team like Texas A&M, that is who they need. That is who they need. Now, as far as the 49ers this year, I think that they are going to take a back seat. I don't know. I think it's just because they are worn out from all of the playoffs, all of the previous playoff years that they went to and didn't win a championship. So 49ers, they might be, at best a wild card team this year. That's all I see. Now, number 12, my Dallas Cowboys. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Texas Longhorns. Now, the Cowboys, they do need somebody to help out CeeDee Lamb. They do. Because last year, it was basically, for the Cowboys, it was basically CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. Now, Dallas Cowboys last year, they had Jalen Tolbert and CeeDee Lamb. And Jalen Tolbert, sometimes, he did not show up. So, for the Cowboys to potentially draft Matthew Golden with their 12th pick in the first round from the Longhorns, that is a draft pick that I agree with 1,000%. And that's coming from a Cowboys fan. We do need somebody to help out CeeDee Lamb. Dolphins, number 13, the Miami Dolphins. Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan. Now, the Miami Dolphins, they do need help at their cornerback position because last year their secondary did not hold up last year. It didn't. Now that's not even mentioning, the injuries to Tua Tagovailoa, their offense without Tua Tagovailoa barely being able to score even 3 touchdowns a game, because last year there was sometimes when Tua Tagovailoa, when he was absent from the Dolphins, they would struggle to even score 15 points. There was sometimes in some games where they wouldn't even crack 15 points. So the Dolphins defense, this is a great pick for them to potentially get Will Johnson. He was a great cornerback at Michigan. He was there while Jim Harbaugh was there. And when they won the championship, Will Johnson was also there when Michigan won the championship in not last year, but the year before last. So I see the Dolphins, their first round draft pick. I believe that this is a solid first round draft pick for the Miami Dolphins. Now, number 14, the Indianapolis Colts, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. Now the Colts, they can improve on their defense. But one thing that is uncertain for the Colts is Anthony Richardson going to play a full season? Because since he's been drafted, first season he played first season he played 9 games. Well, excuse me, he played 12 games. Second season, which is last season, he only played 4 games. So, and last year it was one game where he took himself out of the game because he was tired. So, not too much going right for Anthony Richardson, but this is going to be his 3rd season coming up in the NFL. So hopefully, they always said 3rd time's a charm. So hopefully he can put his career in the right direction this coming season. But the Colts, another solid potential first round draft pick, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. When he was with the Michigan Wolverines, they thrived and emphasized stopping the run. And I think that is what the Colts need, because the Colts defense last year, they gave up over 100 yards in every game. Over 100 yards in every game, and you are not going to win games like that and go to the playoffs when you are allowing over 100 plus yards on the ground a game as a defense. That is not going to happen. The next team, the Falcons, Atlanta Falcons, James Pierce, edge rusher, Tennessee. Now, James Pierce, he had a subpar to average season last year at Tennessee, and the 2 years before that, he had an average season. He hasn't really, James Pierce, since he's been with the Tennessee Volunteers, he hasn't had, a standout role. He's just been, one of those players that plays behind the scenes. But since he is worthy of being ranked so high in the draft, he must have been doing something. He must have been doing something that the NFL scouts like. So the Falcons, they do need to, another team that had problems on defense last year, being 27th in total defense. So this is another team that this could be a solid draft pick, and it could be not so solid. He could be traded. So the Atlanta Falcons, James Pierce, edge rusher, Tennessee, I believe that this is a dark horse. This is a dark horse pick, meaning that he could exceed everybody's expectations, and then he could just do the bare minimum. That's what I mean by dark horse pick. Now, the next team, Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals at 16, Tatario McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona. Now, Arizona Wildcats last season, they had a top-notch offense and It was one of the 50 best offenses in college football. To be exact, they were 27th. The Arizona Wildcats had the 27th ranked offense in all of college football, and Terry Toa McMillan had a great season last year. He had over 1,000 yards receiving. So, Arizona Cardinals, they need somebody to help out. They need somebody to help out Marvin Harrison. So this is the right guy to have him help out Marvin Harrison. Kyler Murray, this will be another gadget guy that they can put in plays for him, when it comes to a wildcat or a trick play, or all of the trick plays, because Terry Toa McMillan, he has had experience playing and had some trick plays dialed up for him. So the Cardinals, they have a little bit of a gadget guy. The next team is the Cincinnati Bengals at 17. Tyler Booker, guard, Alabama. Now, I looked at Tyler Booker last year. He did not give up too many sacks. He didn't even let the people that he were guarding, that played up against him, he didn't even let them get to Jalen Milroe a lot of times. He didn't. So the Bengals, Tyler Booker at guard, this is a solid draft pick for the Bengals if they potentially get him. Now, the Seahawks, they are led by a young core group, and also Carson Swangsinger, linebacker, UCLA, had a little bit of an subpar season. So Seahawks, they are just in a rebuilding phase. So what they are trying to do is, get the fans back on their side, because Seahawks throughout the offseason, they traded away DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and they got five future draft picks in return. So I believe the Seahawks this year, they are going to have to take a back seat. But like I said, from now to the start of the regular season, a lot of things can change. But as far as the Seahawks defensively concerned, I believe that this is a good draft pick for them, because I would say 7 games last season, the Seahawks, they ended up losing the game in the final 2 minutes. In the final 2 minutes, they ended up losing 7 games last year in the final 2 minutes. So if you want to be a championship team, you have got to close. The next team, 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Maxwell Hairston, cornerback, Kentucky. Now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they already have Antoine Walker Jr. Antonio Walker Jr. as the top cornerback basically not in the NFL, but the top quarterback, for the Buccaneers. So Maxwell Henderson, he used to play for the Kentucky Wildcats, and let me tell you, last year it was some games where he got burnt for touchdowns. So This pick is I would say a maybe. It's a maybe because you don't know if this guy is going to do great, and you don't know if this guy is going to exceed expectations. So I'm on the fence when it comes to Maxwell Harrison, cornerback, Kentucky. I am. I really am. Now, the next team, number 20, the Denver Broncos, Omarion Hampton, running back, North Carolina. I believe this draft pick for the Denver Broncos makes so much sense. It do. Because Sean Payton, let me tell you, Sean Payton over the years, he has always had a running back like, like the potential that Omarion Hampton has. Now, North Carolina last season, outside of them, having trouble on the offensive side, like scoring, one thing that was consistent is Omarion Hampton, he would average 80 yards a game. He would. He would average 80 yards a game. And also, there would be some games where North Carolina, they would win off of his back. They would. They would because sometimes when it comes to a team, you don't have a good quarterback, and North Carolina didn't have a good quarterback last year. Wide receivers, you have great wide receivers, but a wide receiver is only as great as a quarterback. The Carolina Tar Heels did not have a quarterback last year. Only thing they had was a running back. So now this is a great, this pick makes so much sense. I would be surprised if the Broncos don't get Omarion Hampton. And let me tell you, another 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 player that the Broncos should think about getting is the running back that I mentioned earlier in the show, Ashton Jeanty. He played at Boise State, which is right there in the state of Colorado. He played right there. The Denver Broncos are right there. He fits well in Sean Payton's system. So you have two players that make sense in the Denver Broncos offensive lineup. Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty. Are the Broncos going to move up to get Ashton Jeanty? I have not heard anything. My phone is buzzing out of control this morning. I have not heard anything about the Denver Broncos trying to move up to get Ashton Jeanty, but be on the lookout. If Ashton Jeanty is still on the board and the Broncos haven't made their pick, or if the Broncos trade up to get, if the Broncos do a trade up, be on the lookout for Ashton Jeanty to the Broncos. Now, the next team, number 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Colston Loveland, tight end, Michigan. He is a good tight end, and this is this is a great draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers because when you look at it, they already have DK Metcalf as their wide receiver. Last season, they had subpar production from their tight end group. And Colston Loveland last year, he basically carried the Michigan Wolverines in the tight end department. So this draft pick makes so much sense. And at the end of the day, only question we have in our minds is who is going to be the opening day starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Because I don't know who. I don't know who, and it seems like, see, one thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't develop quarterbacks in the draft. And I mean The last guy they didn't have to develop in the draft, Big Ben, when he came to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they didn't have to develop him any because he played 3 years of college ball. 3 years of college ball, and he placed he was placed into the starting lineup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. His rookie season, he was able, Big Ben was able to get his team all the way to the AFC Championship game. Now, ever since then, it's just been a QB carousel since Big Ben has retired. It's just been a QB carousel. So, Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Colston Loveland. I like this pick. I have no problem with it. And I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to draft Colston Loveland with the 21st pick. Now, number 22, the Los Angeles Chargers, Michael Williams, edge rusher, Georgia. Here, he's also another guy that over the past 3 years that I've watched in the national championship game that they played versus TCU, where basically it was just a blowout, Michael Williams had 8 tackles and a sack. You can go back and look in that game where basically it was just a a slugfest of a game for the Georgia Bulldogs. So the Chargers, they do need to improve on the defensive side of the ball. They do. Because that playoff game that they had last season against the Houston Texans was not a good look. It wasn't. Now, as far as the offense concerned, Chargers, they need to improve on offense. You can't kick field goals in this league and think that you are going to get far in the playoffs. Cuz that's all that the Chargers did versus the Texans in the playoff game was kick field goals. That's all. But like I said, when you got Jim Harbaugh and you got a team, a defensive team, and a run first team, maybe, just maybe, you need to get you some wide receivers and get you another running back. Now I think that's what the Chargers are going to do. Get them another running back because Austin Eckler, he's gone. He's in Washington now. And you need somebody more an every down. You need another every down running back because J.K. Dobbins, you don't want to wear his tires out. You don't. So so as far as a defensive standpoint, I do like this pick. Michael Williams from Georgia to the Chargers. I do like that. I do. The next team, Packers, Green Bay Packers, at 23, Malachi Starks, safety, Georgia. Let me see. When it comes to the Packers, they already have good safety and cornerback help, but to have another guy, and I mean a pretty much a great guy to just come get him out of college and bring him in, I mean for the Packers they might have one of the best secondaries in football. They do. They probably will have one of the best secondaries because even last season they didn't give up many deep shots. They didn't. But when they did, most teams they hit on them. Now, as far when I say deep shots, I mean explosive plays, meaning that it's 30 plus yards. Now, them 30 plus yard plays down the field against a Packers defense came very seldom last year. Plus the cornerbacks and the safeties, they had quite a few interceptions when it comes to the when it comes to the Green Bay Packers last year. So I like this. I like this. I like this pick. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers got another cornerback or safety in later rounds in this draft. I wouldn't be surprised by that. The next team, the Vikings, number 24, Nick Scorton, edge rusher, Texas A&M. I also saw him last season in some of those marquee games. Against Georgia, he didn't really have much of a game. Against Texas, he had 6 tackles. He had 6 tackles. But basically, Nick Scorton, edge, he is basically a run stopper. So the Vikings, they do need somebody to stop the run because last season, the Vikings, this is what I got to say about the Vikings. The Vikings, early in the season, it seemed like they're just a team full of hype. And then when you get to the latter part of the season, and even in the playoffs, they failed to produce. It was like that in the Rams game, the playoff game versus the Rams. It was like that versus the division championship game versus the Detroit Lions. So the Vikings, I'm thinking about basketball, so excuse me. The Vikings, they do need to improve their defense because Vikings defense last year was 18th. The Texans, number 25, Texans, Emeka Ubuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. Let me tell you, Ohio State won the championship in college football. Emeka Ubuka, he had a dominant game. Against Tennessee, cracked over 100 yards. Against Texas, he cracked over 50 yards. And I do mean against, in the championship game, he cracked over 50 yards. This guy, outside of the other wide receiver in this draft, on this list, Luther Burden, this guy is the best wide receiver in the first round, no matter what. Best wide receiver in the first round. And Texans, if they get him, you have somebody to help out Stephon Diggs. This pick makes so much sense. It does. It makes so much sense. The next team, number 26, the Los Angeles Rams. Projection is Shedeur Sanders. Now, one thing about Shedeur Sanders, I've been hearing over the last, 36 hours that they think Shedeur Sanders is going to drop. I am going to be surprised. Like, everybody is going to keep a watchful eye throughout the NFL draft on where Shedeur Sanders would land. Now, the Rams, as far as the Rams, I could see them. I could see this, being a possibility because Matthew Stafford only has maybe 2 years left at most in the NFL, and Shedeur Sanders develop under Matthew Stafford, and then when Matthew Stafford retires, Shedeur Sanders takes the reign. But Shedeur Sanders is a guy, he wants to get on a team and start right away. That is why I don't see him going to the Rams. I don't know who is going to get Shedeur Sanders, but I can guarantee you it's not going to be the Rams. The next team, number 27, the Baltimore Ravens, 27th draft pick, first round. Donovan Jackson, guard, Ohio State. Another sensible pick right here because you need somebody to protect Lamar Jackson's blind side. So, Donovan Jackson, Ohio State last year, he had a good season. He only allowed 6 sacks last season. So, guard, this guy, he is great. He fits the Baltimore Ravens criteria for what a guard should be. Protecting the quarterback, on the offensive line and also opening up rushing lanes for the running backs. So this pick is a sensible pick. The next the next team I am going to the next team is the Detroit Lions number 28. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, Oregon. Now the Detroit Lions last season, early start of last season, the Detroit Lions defense was pretty much, average. And then when they started experiencing injuries on top of injuries, Detroit Lions, the defense was a shell of themselves once the playoffs got started last season. Yeah, once the playoffs started last season. So this is another sensible pick right here because Dan Campbell and the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, they are gonna have a great season. Now, there might be a little bit of slippage that the Detroit Lions experience, but having a guy like Derek Harmon, defensive tackle, in the middle of the field, they're not going to experience too much slippage. So the next team, number 29, Washington Commanders, Shavion Revel Jr., cornerback, East Carolina. Commanders, they do need help because their defense, total defense last year was 17th. So having a guy like this, Shavion Revel Jr., he is, I'm gonna say this. East Carolina, he is an X factor. And it's a lot more X factors on on this list in the first round, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned all of them. But if I haven't, before this show ends, I am going to mention them. The Bills, Luther Burden III, wide receiver, Missouri. He kind of reminds me of a Keon Coleman. He can help out Keon Coleman, so this pick makes so much sense. The Chiefs, let me tell you, the Chiefs, how they ended the season losing in the Super Bowl, and I mean they gave up 5 sacks. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, Ohio State, makes so much sense. Makes so much sense. And for the Eagles, Nick Eman Worry, safety, South Carolina. The Eagles already have 2 safeties, Reed Blankenship and Cooper DeJean. If they add him to the fold, the Eagles, their defensive lineup is going to be something this year. And with that, those are my projections for the the first round of the NFL draft, which kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. So please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my reaction videos, shows, and other content. Also, we are doing an expansion over here on YouTube, and we are doing an expansion over on Key City Sports on Instagram. So follow Key City Sports on Instagram, follow Key Time Sports right here on YouTube. And remember, everybody, one last thing, the key is always on time.